Jesse. Jesse is he's a packer and a hunting guide for a hunting lodge out in Idaho, and he's been down here visiting for a few days. And so we did another video earlier, just an overview of what a packer is, what the life and the job consist of. And I said in that video that we would do another one where Jesse's just going to go over his gear that he uses up there on the mountain. And so he's gonna do that now. And so I know the audio is probably going to be not what you're used to on this channel. We've had a bit of microphone problems, so I've got a cheaper, just direct plug-in mic, but it doesn't do the same job. But we'll do the best we can. And so I'm just gonna step around here out of the way and get back behind the camera. Mama's not here today. She went to help a family member that needed some help, and so it's just us bachelors here trying to figure this thing out without Mama. And as is usual, when Mama's not around, we make a gammon mess of it. So we'll try to do this. So Jesse, I'm just going to turn it over to you, and I'm gonna go back behind the camera. It's all yours.
Well, howdy, folks. I'll try to get through this without boring you too much. I just want to go over a few things of what I carry, why I have it, the way that I have it, and what use it is to me. Full disclosure, I'm on vacation, so I don't have exactly everything that I would have, but I do have what I've got, so we'll go over that, and I'll try and explain it out for you, and maybe we can get through this. All right, so we'll start with the saddle. It's very important to have a good one. Where I'm at personally, what I'm doing, it is very steep, very rough country, and not having a good saddle is going to be very uncomfortable for you. If you can find you one that's going to fit the kind of stock you're riding and it's going to fit you well, it's going to be a tremendous help. There's a lot of hours spent in the saddle up there, and if it's uncomfortable, you're not going to enjoy it very much. So I personally use a Wade. It's just a slick fork Wade. I do have the bucket rails on there for a little bit of added, kind of helps pack me into the saddle a little bit. Going up and down those hills, you can brace against it, or if you got something break loose on you, you got a rough stock, you can lock your knees up underneath and maybe keep yourself in the saddle a little bit. So anyway, because it's rough and steep, your saddle, you're going to want a back cinch on it, as well as a breast collar. I can't tell you how many times not having these has put me or somebody else that I was riding with in a tight spot, because their saddle's coming up over the horse's neck and they're wearing it like a necklace now, or sliding plumb all the way back, and even if your cinch is tight, you can still have problems. So those are important and extremely useful. I'm gonna move down here, touch on the stirrups real quick. These are oxbows, okay? A lot of people do not like oxbows because they're easy to get hung up in. I've never had a problem with it. These are extremely comfortable for me. They help me when I'm in the kind of terrain that we're in, and I've never had a problem getting in and out of them or anything like that at any given time. So they're comfortable, they work very well for me, but you gotta find what works for you. So if something bigger and flatter works, then definitely use them. I will say that in the wintertime, when I'm wearing bigger boots with insulation and stuff, I might switch those out because those aren't as easy to get in and out of with bigger boots. So, and these are iron, they're not plastic. Plastic is more dangerous, it's light, they break easy, and they're a lot easier to get hung up in. So anyway, right here, this I'm using this instead of an axe. These are very handy for smaller trees that happen to fall on the trail, which happens a lot. These get through a small tree a lot faster and seems to be with a lot less effort than an axe will. And they're also lighter and they go right on the saddle real easy. My axe I usually have in the pack string with the cross cuts and whatnot, which is another reason to have one of these, because I don't have to get off and go back and unpack the mules or whatever to get the other saws off. So these are just real handy. You can step off, cut a tree, and keep moving. A lot less painful. So on my saddle, and with a lot of pack saddles, you're going to want something like this. It is hay string, I know, all right, so don't hate on that. Let me explain that. The hay string it's tough enough, but it's also breakable, and if you have a situation, these can break. The reason you want them to break is your lead rope is going to be, when you're not on, if you're leading your horse, you're going to want your string tied on, but if you tie them on hard and fast and something bad happens, you have a wreck. You got some animals start rolling down the mountain, this will break and they won't drag your entire string with them. These are on all the pack saddles. Everything that we're going to tie to has something that's breakable. We don't ever tie hard and fast, tying them together, because it can cause a lot more than just a simple problem. So that's why that's on there, and these will need replaced before too long because they've been used quite a bit. So let me turn this around real quick. I'll touch on the other side here. Before I do that though, I do have hobbles on. I always have hobbles on my saddle. They've come in handy a lot of times. We'll get into either into camp and there's enough grazing where we can just turn the animals loose. Having hobbles where you can at least keep them in and or close to camp, where you don't have to go chase them down near as far, and they're not as fast when they have hobbles on. So those have come in really handy. Even just stopping for lunch and turning them loose to graze for a little while is it's very good to have those. At least I always try to have a pair on. So moving on to this side, I have a rope. I'm not a roper. I'm not even good at roping, and I don't even pretend to be good at roping. But a rope is handy for a lot more than just catching cows. We've had mules get loose, and they don't want to be caught sometimes, and it's good to have a rope where you can put a loop on one and catch them up. This rope is a triple extra soft horse rope, so it's not your stiff calf rope. This is very pliable, and I can use it to, if I run out of many ropes and I got to tie something on, or just tie something onto my saddle, then I can use that to do so. It's come in handy for a lot of things. I've even used it to drag logs out of the trail when we couldn't move them by hand. My scabbard setup, get this out of the way. There's a dozen different ways to put a scabbard on. Depends on how you're carrying your rifle, where you're at, what's comfortable for you. Mine, I always have it facing the front so I can access it without having to reach back. I've got it at an angle so I can reach it from both sides, on or off the horse. And I angle mine just a little bit, but I like it a little more straight up and down. If you're going up something super steep and you've got it straight and hanging out the back, I've actually seen them come out the back, and that's never pleasant to reach back and you don't have a rifle anymore and you don't know where you lost it. We've had to go looking for rifles before. It's not a fun thing. So I always have mine where I know I'm gonna have it, and I can always see it, know where it's at, and I don't have to worry about it. It's also like this. It's comfortable for me. It's not in the way of my leg. It doesn't get bound up or nothing like that. So that's why I carry it like that. It's personal preference. Find how you like it and what you want to do. My carry. This is a Marlin 4570. It's just a guide gun, short barrel, stainless, because weather's a little rough, and blued weapons can rust a whole lot easier. I like big loop levers because wearing gloves and stuff, I can get my hands in there. But it's pretty basic. There's nothing fancy about it. I like to have extra rounds, so that's why that's on there. Also, I will say this just briefly. When it is on, I've got it, what you might say is upside down. It's faster for me to get out when I'm on or off a horse. I like to have that accessible way. So, just a little tidbit there. All right. I just replaced all the strings on this saddle. As you can see, they are long. I don't like short strings because they're useless. They're just there for show. And show's good sometimes, but it's not practical. So long strings I can tie. I mean, I can put 2 quarters, one on each side of the saddle, and tie them on, and pack an elk off the mountain if I need to. So, or have a couple extra coats on if I need. Things are getting cold, whatnot. So that's kind of the basics. I don't know if you can see this here from there, but I've got a crupper ring on the back of my saddle. I do end up riding mules a lot. Crupper is important when you have a mule because their backs are flat, they're built a little bit different. And I have a crupper here somewhere. Maybe I'll set it down and then I'll. Anyway, a crupper is just, it's a simple piece of leather, and it just goes around the tail, or underneath the tail of whatever animal you're riding, and it just helps keep your saddle in place downhill. Even with, I've had back cinch, breast collar, and a tight saddle, and they'll still slide forward. So a crupper just kind of helps keep everything in place if you're riding something like a mule. I also do want to just bring this to light when I have my rope on, and with the rifle, the way that I've got the rifle on there. I've nearly lost my rifle because the strap on my scabbard broke, and the only thing keeping the rifle from falling off the mountainside was the rope. So I always keep it like that. Just run that stock through. If it does break, the rope's gonna hold it up. It literally, I think I went about 6 miles before I noticed that the scabbard was broke, and it saved my rifle from some pretty rough, a really rough fate. So anyway, that's kind of the overview of the saddle. I'll go over my saddlebags and just a few things that I've got in them currently that are still in there from the last trip out, and then I'll move into a couple other small things real quick. Water is obviously very important. I like a canteen. It's go right on the horn, it's accessible, and it looks better than have a couple water bottles dangling off your horn. So that's just what I personally use. Use wherever you want. I'll generally have a bottle of water or something also in the saddlebags, just in case. Saddlebags, there are probably 1,000,001 different types of saddlebags, but I prefer leather. It's my go-to. These are big saddlebags. You gotta be careful with big saddlebags because they're easy to overload. You put a lot of weight on there, and if these are loaded heavy and you've got them right there, right on top of the kidneys of a horse, and you're moving up and down mountains all day long, that can sore your horse pretty easily, and then you're in a tight spot. So be careful when you have big bags, not to overload them. A few things. Always got a Bible and poetry. So last video we hit on first aid, knowing how to use it. If you know how to use it but you don't have anything to use it, then it's kind of pointless. Personal kit is for me or the guys I'm riding with, and then a horse kit is important. This needs restocked. It's got used, and so it's a little lean right now, but this is Prevail. It's kind of helps with the horses hurting. It'll get you to camp so you can get things sorted out. I've been in the dark a lot more times than I intended to be. Having a flashlight is just, it can be a lifesaver. So I always try to have at least a small headlamp or something in there. I got fire starter. I've got spare string for piggins. They break all the time, so I do have that. It's accessible. Hand warmers, a life straw for bad water, and then matches. Those are just a few of the basics. I'll have more in there when I'm actually out. Those are what I've got in there currently, and they're necessary to have. So definitely want some good stuff in there. So if you've got all this, but you're not dressed right, you're not dressed for the weather, then it's going to be another miserable time. So first and foremost, I always have a pistol on. I have it on my personal belt, because having a big belt wrapped around you and you're wearing chinks and extra clothing and all that, it's not comfortable, and it's not quite viable. So I always have a pistol. My personal is a 44 Magnum. It's just a Ruger short barrel 44 Magnum. It'll take care of anything that I need to take care of, and I don't have to worry about it. So I'll have a few extra rounds in a pocket, and then that's always on my belt. I also always have a belt knife, fixed blade, aside from the pocket knife. These come in extremely handy. I've had to cut piggin strings, I've had to cut lead ropes, tangled stock. It's accessible, it's easy, and a good one is unbeatable. They can literally save your life. I also always have a Leatherman, but that's personal preference. I've used it more times than I can count, and having it where you can get to it. So the most important thing when you're dressing is going to be layers. That's going to be the most important thing. The weather changes throughout the day, and if you are dressed warmly and it gets warm, you're just going to be hot and sweating all day. If you're not dressed warm enough, then you're going to have that problem as well. You're just going to be cold. Having layers where you can trade things in and out and put more on and take more off is going to be extremely important. So I always have a vest on, and the reason that I wear a vest is not for any reason other than pockets. I have pockets. I can put all this on. I don't have to be trying to dig into my jeans when I'm on a horse. I don't have to be trying to fight my chinks to try and get something out when I need it. I can put everything I need right here where it's accessible, it's easy to get to. This one's wool, so it's also an added layer of warmth. That's another benefit to that one. Aside from like your long johns and stuff, which I won't get into, I will say wool is number one, at least to me. But you do what you want. A sweater for me has been extremely helpful. It's very warm. They're generally thin enough that they're not getting in the way, but they're extremely warm, and just packing on those layers. A base layer of a wool sweater is phenomenal. You can go through so many different kinds of coats and jackets and what you like and what you don't. Just with a sweater or something and a vest, if it's not too cold, just added layer for not necessarily warmth, but you can get little protection from maybe some mist or snow, or just warding off the brush and the tree branches that come by. It's just a I don't know, duck cloth or canvas or something like that. That's all it is. This coat is extremely tough. I've put it through an incredible amount of abuse, and it has held up tremendously for several years. It is a Schaefer, for whatever that's worth. I do like Schaefer a lot. Your slicker's important, but it's not. You don't always want to have a slicker on. Sometimes there's just times you just don't need a full slicker, and so a lot of times I'll carry just an Outback coat, just a regular length coat for shedding off the mist and snow and whatnot. And then for warmth, if I'm going more extreme, I've got a good Filson that I absolutely love. Filson is top notch. I would have all Filson, but I can't afford that. I work for a living. So this is a double Mackinac Cruiser is what this is. It's 100% wool. There's no liner. There's no anything. It's just wool, and it has kept me warm in some extreme weather. Heavy snows, even heavy rain, and that's all I had, and that saved me from some pretty miserable times. So I'll touch on boots real quick. Mostly in the summertime, and even in like the spring and early fall before it gets too cold, I'll just wear a regular set of cowboy boots. As long as they have some tread on them, because you're up and down those hills, you can slip and slide, and I've come all the way down the hill just pretty much sliding the whole way down. If you got good tread on them, cowboy boots are unbeatable. They're just your basic riding boot. It's nothing nothing too special or anything like that. But when you start getting into more colder weather, you are going to want, obviously, a lot of insulation. The problem you run into is that a lot of boots with insulation are not riding boots. So try to find you a good pair of riding boots that will go in and out of a stirrup and are also will keep you warm and dry. How many times my feet have been cold and wet throughout an entire day because I didn't have the proper footwear, and it just makes your entire experience that much more miserable. Having a good pair of boots that you can rely on is also one of those things, those many things. It's just unbeatable. So I like Schnee's boots. I like white boots. I've used both. They work extremely well. I think a lot of the guys that I work with, they ride with the same thing. They use Schnee's. They got Packer boots. They even got slip-ons now. They're well insulated. So find you a good pair of footwear, because that's number one. And wool socks. I'm just gonna throw that one in there. Wool socks. All right. I think I've covered about everything. Cowboy scarf. This is silk. It keeps the heat in, keeps the cold winds from blowing down my neck, keeps the dust off of me in the summertime. I can just pull it up over my face and stop breathing all that stuff in. I always have one. If I'm not wearing it, it's accessible where I can throw it on if I need it. I can also double as a tourniquet or pack in a wound if you need to, just anything like that. Those are very handy. If you are going to wear chaps, you can just pick your poison, really. I just have Chinks at the moment. These are really good. They're B-Bar-Bs. I think they're buffalo, which is a extremely tough but also very supple leather, and so these have been through an extreme amount of abuse as well. But a good pair of Chinks, keep the rain off, keep them oiled well, and if you can wear shotguns. Those work well too. In the summertime, they're not going to be as pleasant because they're a lot warmer. That's for sure. They are a lot warmer. But I do like them in the fall and even early spring or something when it starts cooling off. A good pair of shotguns is definitely a plus. So I won't go into like headstalls, bits, and all that stuff, because that's just whatever you're riding and whoever you're riding with a lot of times. But anyway, I hope that kind of gives you an overview and maybe a good idea of just some of the things to think about if you're going to move into something a little more along these lines.
All right, thank you, Jesse. So some of y'all been fussing. You think with the cigar videos we leaving our original start, but we're still about horses and wrangling and packing, and so we've gone back to the beginning here and back to the basics, and so I appreciate Jesse taking his time and going through this. And if you like it, click like, subscribe if you haven't. If you know somebody who's wanting to go into the life, then just click share and send this to them. And we want to remind you about Mama's channel, Dry Creek Mama, and she's posting stuff over there, and the Rumble channel, and I'll try to get all the links. Mama's not here. I'll have to get on the computer.
You're going to have to try it.
I'll have to try. I'll try to get all the links in the description, and I'll put a link to the video that was before this. That's a companion to this video talking about what the Packer life is. So anyhow, hope you liked it.
One thing I forgot to mention, I don't wear spurs out there.
Yeah.
Spurs, they're good for a lot of reasons and they work for a lot of things, but up there, you got so many ropes and things and so much to get tangled up in. It's not good. I've had some pretty close calls from wearing spurs, so I just don't wear them. If you want to, that's on you. I'm not going to tell you what to do, but I would not recommend spurs.
When you've got, let's say, one man and the mount that he's riding, and then behind him tied together maybe 10 mules in a narrow mountain trail, and deadfall, which those of you that don't know, deadfall is you got some trees like aspen trees, a grove of aspens, when they get up to a certain point, they don't have a real good solid root system. a storm will come through and it'll blow like a whole section of forest down, and it's like pickup sticks. They're just on top of each other, and it's just a mess. And so you've got that you have to get through. You have 1,001 ways to get tangled up, to get hung up, to die up there. And so you're always thinking about what's going to get me tangled up, what's going to get me hung up. That's why the piggin strings, that's why you don't tie anything hard and fast. When we were up on the mountain this summer, we had one mule that we were coming back down. He wasn't packed, and he was emotionally attached to the lead mare that Jesse was riding, that mare. And he's like, forget this. And so he sat back and planted his feet and popped that piggin string, and he was on the back of what he was doing. Then the trail switch back, and he's like, nope. And I was in the back and I watched him. I'm like, Jesse, he's gonna go, and he did. He bailed off over the side, and where the trail went like that and came back down like that, he took a shortcut and hit this one.
Just cut all the corners.
He just cut the corner, and Jesse was in his string and come around here, and then when he got about here, he bailed off that one and dove right in the middle of his string so he could get up behind that mare. And so, there's mules, they got their own thing, and so you don't want to get hung up. But yeah, spurs, everything on a pack horse is tied with slip knots and quick release knots.
Which is just another reason that I carry a cross strap, because I carry the lead rope when I'm leading. A string is always on my right side, and that's just an extra something to get caught up in and get hung up in. That rope is tangled.
Just something else.
If you're riding and you're leading, don't ever tie to your saddle. Don't dally. I just do a simple wrap and then tuck the tail underneath my leg. They can always pull it out. I can access it super easy. But tying hard and fast is a good way to get dead.
Well, all this just illustrates this is a life where you got to have a state of mind that you're always alert, you're always thinking. And I've packed, I've wrangled, I've cowboyed. I've never been in a job where I had any more likelihood there's going to be a wreck today than in packing. And almost every day, sometimes it's a little wreck. You got a string, and this mule decides we're all going, here's a tree, everybody's going down. This mule decides, no, I want to go around the tree this way, which he just jams up the whole thing. And that string will pop, and you go back there and lead them back up, round the tree proper, tie them up, keep going. But if you got them tied and fast, then you got these mules that are milling around this tree and getting tangled up and everything. So it's just part of that life. You got to always be looking for that wreck and trying to be ahead of it. So anyhow, kind of a long video, but I hope you found it interesting, and I hope you like it, and we appreciate it, and we'll catch you guys next time.